Many classes in Baltimore City Public Schools are overcrowded. A teacher who faces more than 25 students in a class period of 50 minutes has no more than 2 minutes at best per pupil for one-to-one interaction during any period. The greater the number of students in a class, the fewer the opportunities for students to participate orally. The larger the number of students in a class yields a greater amount of time devoted to classroom management rather than instruction. The larger the class size, the less likely teachers are to develop lessons encouraging higher level thinking. Young people of color in the United States are significantly more likely than white students to be educationally disadvantaged by placement in crowded classes with more than 25 students. Now, the benefits of reducing class size are measurable in the following areas. Number one, more teacher-student interaction fostering success. 2, greater use of effective instructional strategies. 3, more student engagement. 4, less time on behavior issues and more time on instruction. Number 5, higher student achievement, especially for poor and minority students. 6, higher graduation rates. And number 7, improved teacher morale. Now, smaller classes tend to decrease teacher attrition rates over time, especially in high needs area, leading to a more experienced and effective teaching force. Smaller classes allow reflection, allow feedback from teachers and peers, and ignite creativity and deeper learning through questioning, discussion, and debate. Class size reduction has the strongest support of any education reform in polls of stakeholder groups, including parents and teachers. Teachers say at over 90% that is the best way to improve their effectiveness, more so than additional training, increased salaries, merit pay, or any other strategy. Those whose performance improves the most are those who need the most help. Children from poor and minority backgrounds who make about twice the gains as other students. Reducing class size in the early grades shrinks the achievement gap by about 38%. And finally, our reanalysis of the current STAR data estimated that the reducing class sizes may be more cost-effective than almost any other public health and medical intervention, with large savings in healthcare and almost 2 years of additional life for those students who were in smaller classes in the early grades. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Additional comment from?
Good evening. My name is Samantha Davis. I am also from the Mervlis Mergenthaler High School. And just to kind of carry on with what my colleague was saying, there have been several large-scale studies that have shown that smaller class, the better the results, as measured by student performance on a variety of tests. Again, with no evidence of a threshold effect. According to these studies, there's no particular level to which a class size must be lowered in order to raise achievement. I understand that with looming budget decisions and budget crises affecting much of America, including Baltimore City, that it seems an absurd time to make such a big ask. However, I've seen a number of revolutionary things occur during my tenure here in Baltimore City. And so we ask rather, that you keep in mind with looming budget decisions to be mindful to act in what is in the best interest of students and student achievement. There is no doubt that classroom communities are much better when they are kept at lower numbers. We're asking that the board possibly consider making a commitment to put a mandatory cap of 22 students per class on all schools in the district and assist principals in implementing this policy immediately by the start of the 2012-2013 school year. There should be no class with more than 22 students at any BCPS school. We also ask that in order to facilitate this, that you allow surplus teachers to continue working at their current sites until they find a permanent placement, which will also help keep class size at the lowest level possible.
Ms. Davis and Mr. Provo, what subjects do you teach, if you don't mind me asking?
I teach Spanish, and getting back to the point that Mr. Provo pointed out, the opportunity to communicate orally, you just don't get it at the same degree in my classroom of 36 as you do in my classroom of 20-something.
I teach English.
You have a very melodious voice, too.
Thank you very much.
I was thinking that how soothing you were.
Well, I hope not too soothing.
Commissioner Stone? I'm sorry.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I know that people are always concerned about class size. I guess what my question is, with our current policies in place, with school family councils and site-based decision-making, I'm wondering why you couldn't just establish at each of your sites that that was a priority to have small class sizes and allocate your resources accordingly. I'm not sure what prohibits you from doing that.
Oh, there's nothing that's prohibited us for doing it, and I think that is a great venue to advocate for students and for to have a better classroom environment. But I guess we're thinking larger scale throughout the city on schools where people are not making the same advocacy, that we be mindful of it, especially as we move forward to a time where it's so easy to just fill a classroom full of students, particularly with some of the difficult decisions that lie ahead. So we just wanted to keep that kind of in the forefront of the mind and think about making a decision as a district to say we will not do this and we will service our students in the best way possible.
But there's nothing to prohibit schools from doing that now.
No, there isn't.
It's a work in progress.
I will say, I was going to comment this, we have roughly 84,000 students in the city. We have 6,500. So you do the math, and I experience this when I walk into schools, which is that there are decisions being made at the school level that are impacting what happens in individual classrooms. And I'm sure at Maryville, you know that there are classrooms where there might only be 12 kids in a class at any one point, and then other classrooms that have 30 kids. And part of what I hope happens in a school is a real hard conversation about what that means. The other aspect is that we know that in some schools, especially small schools, where principals are wrestling with questions of breakage, that there are really hard decisions when you don't have enough kids to fill 2 classrooms as opposed to, you can only do 1. But in large schools like Maryville, and Maryville is a huge school, the question of class size should not be a debate that entails the board, because it should be grabbed by the faculty as a, if you think that it is so important, then it should be a really important question, especially now as we're thinking budgets for next year. At the district level, what I see is enough teachers to reduce class size, but how it works out in individual schools is very, very variable. And we try to watch when we get a complaint about what's the reason why it's happening, and in some cases we see an explanation, and in other places we say, you don't understand it, why did that school make that decision? And then we go back to the question of, part of the reason why we give schools a lot of flexibility is so that they prioritize certain things. In some places it's being prioritized, in other places. But thank you for being here and for advocating for what you think is right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Commissioner High-Covered.
I just want to echo what Alonzo said, but just add that I would love to see Maryville communities, since you're all from Maryville, set a shining example. If it's something you really want to see proactively done at your school, is sort of make it happen through the budget process, and then set an example for other schools about how they can actually do this, especially with the school your size, and sort of prioritizing what's important in the school, and then sort of coaching other schools about how they go about doing this. I'd love to see that process happen.
I just want to kind of reiterate something and maybe just clarify a little bit. We're also members of a different group that works with other teachers across the city, and one of the issues that kept coming up was an issue of class size. So I don't think it's something that's exclusive to Maryville, and by no means do I want it to go on record as being that it's something we can address. I think, again, we were just being mindful and thinking how powerful of a statement it would be if we made a commitment just as a district to not have any school within the city that had over that a threshold of students being 22.
Other questions or comments of the board? If not, thank you for the presentation.
So I really appreciate all the work that we've been doing to support our immigrant teachers. And I understand that there's a lot of difficult waters to negotiate around that. There's a lot of different legal things that we have to consider. However, we did spend $1 million a year to train these teachers, and they are doing fantastic work. And I think it really behooves us, if we really want to make sure that we have top-notch teachers in our district, it behooves us to do absolutely all that we can. I want to give one example of some of the excellent work that people from, specifically from the Philippines, are doing. Not that I personally feel like state testing is the most important measure of student achievement, but I do think it is something that we as a district need to be mindful of, especially with this race to the proverbial top that we're in. The Alt MSA is really difficult to prepare students for. It's for students who have a lot of difficulties with learning, and it's been, our scores on the Alt MSA as a district have been really low. And a number of Filipino teachers have taken a great deal of time and really availed themselves of a lot of training so that they can really improve those scores. And now we're going to let some of them go back to the other side of the planet. And that doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Now I know that it's a very difficult, there's a lot of stuff that we've got to really do to make sure that this can happen. The market study just took place, and I know that that the results have just come back recently from the market study, but I also know that the people who applied only had to be minimally qualified for the position. And we'd like to see what, obviously we don't need to see their names, but what those qualifications were. Because we know that we want highly qualified teachers in the classroom. We want people with master's degrees. We want people with years of experience. That matters a lot to the kids. And that bringing in college graduates who may or may not have even really be able to pass the praxis once they get in there to try to do it is not the same as having really qualified teachers. I would like that we do the next market test for the next batch of teachers in October, not in September. Because in September, a lot of people are switching schools, and I think you'll get a false positive on how many people are actually looking for teaching jobs. Whereas if you wait for October, a lot of the Teach for America kids will have left because they can't take it. And we'll really see how many people we have. I mean, if Ms. Nikita is talking about third graders spending most of their year with substitute teachers, then we don't have too many teachers in Baltimore City. There's something going on with the numbers, and we've got good people who've availed themselves of all the professional development, who we've already worked to train, who've overcome a lot of the humps and difficulties of culture shock. We really need to work to keep them. Now, I know that there's only so much that we can do under federal law. I also know that their politicians can do even more, and we are part of Baltimore City's politics. I want to see us reaching across the table, reaching out to the mayor who said she wants more immigrant families to move in, buy homes, buy into Baltimore. Let's reach out to her and say, we've got these amazing people who will be great citizens. What can you do to help us keep them here?